Hey, Shri, I just booked my flight to the upcoming grocery shop conference, September 19th to the 22nd in Viva Las Vegas.
Lucky you, Peter. But if you're not already registered, you can go check them out. It's a great CPG grocery event. Have over 100 speakers already signed up. Executives from Amazon, Sam's Club, DoorDash, Unilever, Whole Foods, and a whole bunch of other retailers, service providers, and brands come to the event.
As we know, the pandemic massively accelerated transformation in the CPG space. So it will be really interesting to hear from these innovative companies and their leaders.
Plus, Peter, there'll be tons of networking events, just as most of the other events in this industry, opportunities for conversations, learning, etc., on site as well. Should be a good time. I know, Peter, you're going to be there, and so will our Fresh Folk co-hosts, Andrea and Melissa. So come hang out with them and have a good time.
You can learn more about it by visiting www.groceryshop.com.
Welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our co-hosts, Shri Rajagopalan and Peter V.S. Bond, explore how brands and retailers engage with consumers online, in-store, and everywhere in between. And now, here are Shri and Peter.
Hello, folks, and welcome to this episode of the CPG Guys podcast. I'm Shri, and as of the 6th of August, the AM of 6th of August, I'm now officially a California resident and waiting to see how the Dodgers do for the rest of the year, which my co-host here, Mr. Bond, has not mentioned in quite a few episodes. And why is that? It's because the Yankees are 5 games behind first place, the Dodgers are 4 games behind first place, and the gap has actually narrowed much to his admiration of the Yankees. We all know that the haters of the Yankees are the ones who love it the most. So thank you for your love of the Yankees, Peter. And his excuse of the wild card, we're already in, you're 1 game behind. Thanks, 1 game behind. But I've said Peter thrice. So let me welcome the man with the golden voice, the VP of Partner Strategy and Development at Fetch Rewards, which of course is a mobile loyalty platform, and the man with the golden voice and the radio face, Mr. Bond. How you doing today?
Yes. Yeah, my wife says I have a radio face. I don't know what she means by that. I'll have to figure that out. But I'm doing great, Shri. Listen, it ain't over till it's over. Who said that? Wasn't that a famous Yankee? Wasn't that Yogi? But in any event, good to be here. Excited about the conversation. Hope you're enjoying life out in La La Land. It doesn't get much better than Chavez Ravine in the fall. So enjoy.
I'm going to look forward to discovering what is Chavez Ravine, but this is our 8th in the Los Angeles area, so lots to learn, folks. Thank you, Peter. But before we get to our guest today, I want to remind our audience that all of our content, including what we did on profitability, our women's leadership in the fall of 2020, where we had female leaders featured, and our founders series may be visited at cpgguys.com. If you aren't already following us on LinkedIn, the easiest way to track us, find us, listen to our content, view our content, and be part of this growing family and audience of over 6,500 engaged folks is go to linkedin.com. In the search box, all you got to do is type CPG Guys, a little blue plus button appears, click, and you'll become part of the family. Stay engaged with us, stay engaged with the industry and the community. And by the way, all of the content we put out, Peter, what do we charge for it? If you're watching the video, Peter says 0. That's true. We indeed are a free platform. Today we are back at it with data and analytics, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, but Peter's domain and home turf and his favorite subject. Needless to say, folks, data is one of the most valuable commodities in consumer packaged goods. And when converted to actionable insights, it's a game changer for brand equity growth, one that I have personally experienced over my 25-year career in the industry. We've had others on the show in early episodes talk about the role of artificial intelligence in data and how the future of insights will be shaped by scale and speed. So we decided to do a 2-part series with Fractal, whose vision, and let's pay attention because this is really cool, folks, whose vision is to power every human decision in the enterprise, so the mind can be free to imagine audacious possibilities that can transform human life across the planet. And the mission is to reshape businesses through science, advanced data tools, human-centric design, and uncomplicated decision-making. So the end result is human intelligence can be freed from the drudgery of monotonous work and committed to the pursuit of imaginative and creative rewards. How do you like those words, Peter? That is one heck of a cool mission statement. And today's episode is with their CPG Chief Practice Officer, Dipita Chakraborty, and CPG Principal Consultant Prateek Trivedi. And please join me in welcoming both of them, Dipita and Prateek. Greetings. How are you today?
We're great. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Peter and Sri. Thank you for having us.
Dipita, before we get to the questions for our multitasking audience, could you please give us a brief overview of what Fractal solutions are, what you do, and where they can find you all if they choose to?
Of course. First of all, thank you for hosting us, and it's very exciting for us. It's a privilege. On Fractal, all information can be found at www.fractal.ai, and you can visit us at LinkedIn, which is tagged Fractal Analytics, and finally also a Twitter handle at Fractal AI. So at Fractal, our mission, as you said, is to power every human decision in the enterprise, and to be able to use AI and data sciences, engineering, and design to help enterprises make faster and better decisions and to create value impact. So this is the mission that we live at Fractal every day. I personally lead the CPG practice at Fractal, and I work deeply with our clients to solve business issues that are complex, centered around digital transformation in general. And my team comprises of domain consultants like Prateek, who's joining me today, as well as AI data scientists, AI engineers, cloud engineers, and design thinkers. And you can find both Prateek and me on LinkedIn as well. We really welcome your audience to connect us there.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Dipita. We'll include, of course, hyperlinks to the site addresses you mentioned in our episode, digital liner notes of the podcast for the benefit of our audience. So why don't we jump right in and decompose this wonderful world of those massive BHAG that you have chosen to put in terms of your mission statement, the word audacious especially. So why don't we get started? And here's question number one. Dipita, this one's served up for you. Why don't you start with informing our audience about the core values of the company? You know, I talked about the big BHAG mission statement of the company, but let's just decompose that and who your clients are and how are you. Give us a handful of how you're helping some of these every single day in the value you're bringing to them.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. So, we pride ourselves in our values. There are 4 columns of values at Fractal: client first, learn and grow, think big, act fast, and finally, extend extreme trust and be accountable, right? We measure ourselves relentlessly through what we call our Net Promoter Score, which has improved consistently over the years, ever since we started tracking it. We're at 75 today, pretty good for our sector. And it is a testament to the value we're creating with our clients, of course. This is our aspiration. Along with that, our second value, learn and grow. This is, of course, for our talented teams to continue automating things that cause drudgery and continue to learn and grow and go into new frontiers and new things. And no matter what level you are, as soon as you enter the Fractal organization, that automatically starts. We think big and act fast, and we invest more than 10% of our revenues into innovation, both in solutions and products. And finally, we do live the value with the pace of growth that we have witnessed at Fractal over the last few years and the continued trajectory that we are on. We do want to promote a great work culture of respect and trust, and that's what our 4th value embodies, right? We've been on the Great Places to Work list for the last 4 years. And through all of this, most importantly, we have been privileged to serve clients across different industry verticals. So, of course, CPG, but also retail, finance, insurance, media, technology, telecom, health. And we work with many of the large companies in this space. Most of the names that you usual suspects are among our client roster. And in CPG alone, we work with more than 50 companies globally. The problems we solve across all of our clients bring AI, technology, and design together. And the complex problems in marketing, demand, finance, operations and supply chain, revenue growth management, digital commerce, whether it's pure play or click and collect, personalization. These are all examples of areas that we work with our clients on. As I said before, oftentimes we start with a digital transformation agenda and say, which are the different use cases that we can generate value around? How can we solve problems that we have already solved before, maybe revenue growth management, in a different way, a better way, a faster way, and bring your users closer to the decision point. We also run pure data science experiments, such as data science experiment on programmatic advertising, or how do you do real-time bidding, for example, or pure data engineering challenges, like how do you bring the diverse sources of e-commerce data that come to us seamlessly so that you're able to view your business across all your channels, things like that. Most interestingly, we have also been delving into behavioral design problems where you try to understand your consumer through the micro moments they're living through. What is the context? What is the motivation? And how all of your product innovation as well as communication should be in recognition of the consumer in the center, not just the old segmentation schemes, but very much deep into neuroscience and behavioral design. I think that gives you a little bit of overview of what we're doing.
Thank you, Dipita. That was terrific. I love hearing about the core values that Fractal is emphasizing. Prateek, welcome. The next question we have is for you, and I'm going to serve that up. You know, Fractal has an AI innovation center that I've seen you promote as being kind of the backbone of your business. Can you take a little time helping decompose AI for brands and retailers? What do they really need to know about your innovation center and how it's going to help them?
Sure, Peter. Thank you so much for that question. And thank you for having us over. It's a pleasure to be talking to the two of you. And, and that's a really interesting question. And I say interesting, Peter, because not only does it get asked all the time, but also the answer and the response to that question kind of has a longitudinal form to it for us, right? And you can always answer it with respect to the current state of the market and how it continuously evolves against a common framework of assessment. I believe personally, when we have been working, in the space of AI and innovation across all our clients, that there are 4 fundamental principles that make AI the prevalent imperative to everything brands and retailers, and by that extent, our clients are doing, right? And our AI and Innovation Center really is guided by a D2V2 framework that we would like to call it. And that stands for data, decisions, velocity, and value. And this really helps us guide our clients and help them navigate the changing market imperatives, so to speak, right? And when we really double click on each of these aspects, right, when we think of data, the question that at Fractal we are asking ourselves and our clients really is that how might we source data and create metadata via technology and ecosystems, right? And that's largely has stemmed from the conversations that we are having at our clients, when they are dealing with thousands of products and websites and trying to manage them through retailer platforms, where one individual or depending upon the stage they are in terms of small teams are trying to make fast-paced day-to-day decisions. They are feeling that it's a pure waste of time for everyone, right? To be able to do that manually. And that's where, to quote one of our clients, if we are just talking about one brand, things are manageable, it's still not great. However, when you move on to the entire portfolio, and if we are really serious about the data intelligence, there is no way we believe that you'd be able to react quickly to the changes in the market, especially when 60 to 70% of the sales need to be managed via 3P sellers, right? And hence integrating data as part of a core strategy or core offering for us at Fractal, either through owning that data or via partnership, is an absolute must for us. That's number one, right? An added cherry on the top for us, when I think, is that it powers almost all conceivable use cases across digital commerce, right? So data for us is an absolute must when we think of AI Innovation Center. The second, it comes to decisions. And there we are asking ourselves the question that how might we leverage AI and analytics for both high and low stakes decisions across operations, marketing, and commercial teams, right? And with really, over the last 18 months, impetus to digital commerce, at Fractal, we are reimagining a future where we provide an always-on operating system to our business stakeholders that is not only continuous, but is connected and evolving. And that's how really we are thinking of all our offerings and capabilities. And a great example that I can think of right now is, how we are reimagining decision-making at one of our clients under the umbrella of one demand, right? Which impacts all decisions ranging from revenue management to e-commerce to integrated marketing to route to market, thereby making it a classic omni-commerce play, right? And by taking such an aggregated lens, it is helping us to unlock synergies by building systems and solutions that talk to one another, facilitating cross-collaboration and a single source of truth for insights and decision-making. And that's where decision really comes together within that framework and continues to evolve for our clients. Third is velocity for us, and that's extremely critical. And Shri, you talked about scale, and velocity is the key component because the question that we are asking ourselves is really how we can increase the speed of decisions via automation, right? How can, as an organization, when we are serving our clients, pivot from a 12-week pilot to a 2-week MVP or potentially, lesser? And for circa 2023, our ambition really is to help deliver those MVPs in 5 days, right? And which is where our products, accelerators, solutions can come together as a connected ecosystem to not only drive productivity for our clients and us, but hopefully can we achieve singularity across our slew of offerings, right? And we imagine the future as having that magic button, right? And lastly, for us as value, when you think of AI innovation and driving that scale and adoption, is how can we, most importantly, quantify success from smallest of engagements that we are doing for our clients to largest of transformation programs, right? And a great metric in that regard that we religiously follow for our clients is essentially measuring dollar value by time and the number of projects that we help deliver by time, right? And these are two fundamental metrics that we measure. And if both of them are increasing, right, we help, that really helps us to continuously evaluate and adjust the scale of the program that we are delivering, the impact that we are creating across the organization, and really from outside in, help us evolve the governance structures due to growth in team size, right, that comes with this scale. And that's where, for us, we decompose AI largely for our brands and retailers so that we can have a very clear roadmap that we can put together against this framework.
Thank you, Prateek. One of the things that the industry has been kind of enshrined around in the last, God knows, 50 years in data and analytics is the language used. You all dropped in a lot of what I would call buzzwords in there: machine learning language, AI. Anybody in the analytics space knows these words in like 3 seconds and their value and application. But what about us sales guys over here? To us, data is a commodity. When it creates an insight, we can actually do something with it from a consumer perspective. So what I'd encourage you both is as you use these terminologies, take a moment to decompose what they mean for a rather diverse audience that spans the spectrum of everyone from supply chain to sales to marketers, old school, new school, digital, just a plethora and a mix. With that in mind, Dipita, let me ask you the next question, which is, prior to coming to Fractal, you have been at various other analytics and consulting houses. So this is kind of your turf, your domain, your territory. What specifically attracted you about Fractal that you chose to come here as a CPO? And within the ecosystem, what is that unique capability? Like many will say AI, some will say machine learning language, some would say just the frequency of data that I have. But what is that unique thing that you see that will allow for rapid growth for Fractal?
It's a great question. As I think about my journey, right, every company I've worked with, including my own startup, they have each added, chapters in my journey. I kind of think about it as learning as I grew in the industry, getting to know incredibly impactful people and creating client impact. So my journey has always been about that. And so Fractal is a very logical continuation of that journey. And as I've been in the industry, and Fractal is a 20-year-old company, or 20-year-old young company, I've always followed Fractal with a lot of interest. Many things impress me about Fractal, incredible talent. We're 2,400 people and growing. They have great skill sets. They're suited for today's workplace. They started automating workflow way before anybody else started, and we watched. But also intellectual curiosity, a hunger for new ways to solve problems, just jumping in, as I see all the time, to say, okay, let's reframe the problem, let's solve it our way. And as among many companies that work with AI and data sciences, we are quite deliberate to think about the user and bringing what we call a design-first approach, as in, let's frame the problem, reframe the problem, think about the actual decision, who is going to make the decision in what context, and then let's think about the models that need to be built for that. So instead of AI first, we really think user first as our recipe. And that is really something that has propelled our growth. That is something that interested me in Fractal as well. And I think as I think forward, our problem solving mindset, if you ask our clients, they say we are great problem solvers. Our intellectual capacity, we like to take on new problems. When I started 3 years ago in Fractal, we solved a small variety of problems in CPG, and now we cover the entire gamut end to end from demand to supply, as I like to call it. And that is a testament to things that we have taken on, direct to consumer. We're really thinking through, is it direct to consumer commerce? Is it direct to consumer experience? Where do you begin and where do you stop? And what meaning and value does it add to your business? Or we're thinking about e-commerce optimization as both on-platform and off-platform. For example, if I have a TV advertising, does that help my sale on Amazon? If I have something on Amazon, on their media platform, does that sell something I'm selling at Stop and Shop? These interlinkages, for example, right? There are so many varieties of things that we are doing today, I think, fueled by our problem-solving mindset, our intellectual capacity, and so forth, right? The fact that we look at our consumers and shoppers in the CPG industry through the lens of behavioral sciences, or a consumer who goes to buy a financial product through the same lens, or in health sciences through the same lens, to decode people's motivations and their context. These are all interesting facets that we are bringing together to construct increasing value for our clients across every industry. And I think that is really going to allow for rapid growth because we are starting to see great impact. Our aspiration is to create $1 billion of impact. And we set this aspiration 2 years ago. And many clients, we are close or we have already achieved that. And that's sort of proof that it's working.
$1 billion of impact. Hopefully you'll come back on another episode and with one of your clients and we can decompose what this $1 billion means, because I, for one, and other things I do in the industry, I'm really willing to have a discussion with a service provider who's willing to take on that challenge. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, we look forward to that as well. Let's see if we can get that together for you.
Dipita, I thought you did a great job of talking about how Fractal brings efficiency to every component of what Shri and I have come to call unified commerce. Everything about the digitizing of analog and then the ability to leverage that wherever in the path to purchase a consumer is, even in the supply chain. So let me follow up. In this day and age, I really think about artificial intelligence as kind of being at the highway on-ramp of a brand or a retailer's ability to scale. So from your perspective, what is the most valuable data to scale? Is it first-party data, second-party, third-party? Is it all of it? I'd sure love your point of view on this.
Yeah, and I fundamentally I believe second-party and third-party are the recipes for scale, and then the first-party data follows essentially. But I was discussing with Prateek, and he was bringing out some interesting points. So, Prateek, do you want to add more to the discussion on how?
Absolutely. Thanks, Dipita. I think, in a sense, I think it is about complementing, to your point, how we can complement first party with second party and third party that really helps to drive scale. And, case in point, of course, is that we can develop a great personalization solution sitting on top of first party data and be happy with our ROIs. But if we are not increasing our reach by leveraging second party data or planning campaigns for that matter, right? Basis changing market dynamics and adjusting, our plans, basis real-time performance measures that we track through third-party data, we are really doing a disservice to our business goals, right? And for us, as we see the industry that is transitioning, there are three key trends, that we feel that we are seeing across the ecosystem of manufacturers, aka sellers, retailers, also known as buyers, and emerging platforms, right? With the advent of Instacart, Uber Eats, Deliveroo in the UK, is really, how can we identify these trends together, which we feel, over the last 18 months are better for the consumer, bad for the category, and really worse for the incumbents who are having to make those changes. When we think of the first trend, it's really about, Peter, to your point, how we can own the brand experience through first party data and by leveraging that data, of course, within privacy laws and regulations. And that's where we are when we are working with our clients, the challenges are real in terms of operating within those scaled walled gardens, right? Across retailer platforms and emerging ecosystems that are redefining the rules of play. And hence it's increasingly becoming important for big brands or house of brands for that matter to own that engagement with their shopper. And that's where the journey of first party data and the imperative and the accelerated imperative that we are seeing in conversations are emerging. And really the benefits from an analytics standpoint for us is, and which is really exciting is, can we help our clients to fuel experimentation by recommending various assortments, help them drive loyalty, which really has a cascading effect, across different distribution points where they're selling, right? And it also allows brands to compete with emerging brand aggregators such as, Thrasio, Global Bees, etc., right, for that matter, and other digital natives to really engage with their shoppers in the right way. And that's where owning that brand experience through first party is a key trend that we are seeing, and a lot of analytic solutions that we are working on is in that space. But that's not enough, right? And that's where the second trend comes together, in which we are seeing the really questions around how can we meet our consumer in the moment. And that can really come together by leveraging second party data, of course, due to high consumer expectations and non-linear shopper journeys. We can really tap prospective shopper by merging first party consumer cohorts that we are creating for our clients with second party data that provides us with need states, preferences, transaction behaviors, etc. And given the non-linear journey and explosion of e-commerce, the only way to ensure engagement with your consumer or prospective buyer for that matter is to have the ability to target them during the shopper journey through endless aisles, right? And that's where second party data we are seeing, clients are bringing in and harmonizing really with the first party data. And for us, third party data has been the bread and butter, for analytics since the heydays, when it started. Of course, now the emerging conversations around how to manage those closed loop P&Ls, can we plan optimal value propositions? All of that needs insights, right? That can only be provided by third party data, right? Solutions around, can we track competitor play, model competitive execution, cannibalization impacts, of competitor strategies on own portfolio to really find true attribution of supply trade dollars and shopper marketing budgets across the media space. And that's an active business question that we are being asked right now across all our engagements. And that includes, retailer media as well. Another use case, through third party and ensemble of the three data is how do we address the price management challenges, right, that create equity, deflation, and compression issues due to situations that are emerging from international buying. And that's largely, of course, not only in the US, but across continental Europe, help, due to competitive pricing as well, from various partnering retail groups and customers, right? And I think most importantly, it is also allowing us to use this data, the third party data, to benchmark own assortment versus competition in category. For example, one of the key themes that we are solving across our clients is how we can help them downsize bulk, which is a liability, and really help them focus more on sustainability, right? What are those golden rules of execution for any successful innovation launch as well, right? And so on and so forth. So that's how I see the ecosystem of first party, second party, and third party really coming together, right? Into how our clients are beginning to use all three data sets.
It does depend also on what is your cost to acquire first party data sets. So in CPG industry, that is harder. And versus some industries are created for first party data, in which case harvesting that becomes easier as well. So along with utility, people should also look at the cost component.
Prateek, in the previous question, you actually decomposed amazing examples, right? You're one of the few people in the industry who has actually connected 1P to 2P for me and taken it all the way to 3P data, which of course in the industry, for all of this to have a significant meaning, most of the sales today in CPG is still done in the 3P format for the simple reason that it's brick and mortar. So we can't get away from 3P, and you correctly pointed it out. I did think that when you started talking about cannibalization, you were going to jump into transferable demand, but you didn't. But at some point, I will ask you to at some point, because I feel in where we are today in this COVID era, this should have been the way the way the industry grew up. But go forward, everybody needs to imbibe data and analytics as just a way of life. Like your decision making, no matter what role you do, which function, it's these examples, several examples that you gave, Prateek. These are all just like life and normal for someone like me. And that's the message we want to drive here on the CPG guys. So I'm going to rope it back though for you, Prateek, and then ask Dipita to chime in as appropriate. I want to take all of this, put it in a pat, and go back to scale, because scale is easily derivable from the 3P ecosystem. From 1P and 2P, not so much, not because it can't be done. It's because brands have been shy to do so. So is it data? You spoke a lot about data science. Is it data or data science? What drives scale? This is a cardinal question most brands struggle with. I've struggled with. How do you actually drive scale for adoption if it's 1P and 2P?
All right, absolutely, Sri. I think for us, I think both data and data science are great. Quite frankly, two key foundational pillars around which our offering is set up. But aspiration, like you mentioned, right, to create that $1 billion in value for our clients, it needs both beyond, both data and data science. And at Fractal, of course, we are uniquely structured upon the trifecta of AI engineering and design, which we call as AED, right, where decision-making sits at the heart of it. And for us, there are four key fundamental principles to focus on when we think of scale and adoption. One is value first to drive adoption, and that's extremely critical. Second is design first approach to problem solving. Dipita talked about it a lot, and that's where we want to ensure that we lead design first approach across all our engagements, smallest to largest. Third is product first mindset to drive scale and productivity. And lastly is, can we help complement and set up an agile first team structure for delivery? And these are four fundamental principles for us to drive scale and adoption. We use these principles, of course, at three broad engagement models that we bring to the table when we engage with our clients. One is either we engage as data as a service, wherein we are bringing in data, harmonizing, setting it up for our clients, where we measure impact on time that we help them save pre and post. Second is insights as a service, of course, for clients who have done the data bit and done the hard miles. But still the belief around data-driven decision-making is yet to be there. We engage in, having our consulting teams provide insights and partner with the business teams, RGM teams, commercial teams in helping them through the planning process and helping them articulate decisions. And we meant, across pricing, promotions, profit pool, trade promotion, so on and so forth, assortment as well. And really what we measure is, the number of decisions, both breadth and depth, we help them enable, which they were not able to earlier on. And lastly is value as a service. I talked about it in terms of dollar profitability that we measure, and that's how we set up our programs.
Yeah, so what Prateek really said, I think, is it is neither data nor data science that is sufficient for scale and adoption, right? I think there are components, but it is a human first mentality. Every organization, no matter what it does, will be around human decision making. And that human decision making needs to get easier if we are to use data and data science. And to understand that, we got to start with what is it today? As I like to say, what is the decision spine of an organization? What are those different nodes, right? And if I think about that and say, will data and data science equip speed? If I start with the user and think about a day in the life of the user, is it going to equip speed and scale, right? And that obviously we do through our design approach, but most importantly, that the only way we achieve scale and adoption and actually see the value is when we take that journey and then use data and data science as they come.
And that's the cardinal question for us at the start of every engagement is, are we solving the right problem? Right, which allows us not only to reframe the problem more often than not, but also bring every stakeholder to champion and put their weight behind the problem they helped articulate, right? Data, AI, analytics, I feel are mere means of unlocking value and improving business efficiency. They'll keep evolving with the advent of technology and changing market demands, but user-centric design is the central component that helps us drive scale and widespread adoption, right? And in some cases, helps us find the right champions and the right rally cry within the organization. So that's extremely critical for us.
Dipita, my next question is focused in on supply chain. I think we all know as shoppers ourselves, the supply chain was hard hit for all consumer packaged goods manufacturers and big brands during the pandemic. And frankly, the journey's still ongoing. So could you help us understand what kind of tools and solutions Fractal is offering to help brands recover and actually excel in this particular component of the path to purchase?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I mean, both of you are very much steeped in the CPG industry, so you know how difficult it has been. Everything changed, sort of. Maybe the change was coming, but the speed of change has been unprecedented. And we were always working with our clients around supply chain, and the way we like to call it is plan, source, make, deliver across those 4 pillars to be able to add analytics. And really the key ways that we help them is customer service level improvement, like including out of stocks. How do you optimize performing versus non-performing inventory? How do you construct a smart factory algorithm? How do you provide full visibility and control of your product quality all the way through maintenance? How do you monitor real time and do predictive maintenance? But all with the help of algorithms, right? And we also help them with cost performance. So more in the recent days, maybe last 2 years or so, because of COVID, because of disruption in supply chain, we have seen a few things happen. And this is where at the intersection of the supply and demand, we are working a lot these days. We are helping, for example, one of our clients has seen, 50% increase in their online commerce. And to be able to fulfill that order through their existing warehouses, or to be able to connect, let's say, a Walmart.com order versus what is available in the warehouse, and to be predicting that this is going to go out of stock and therefore send that signal through to the supply chain. Those are the kinds of work we are doing. A lot of this we have invented on the fly as we have gone, but there are 2 key areas where we are going to come out with new solutions. I mean, in August, I think is a timing I know. One of them is connecting supply and demand, and how do you set up systems in between so that your supply chain is demand driven and also there is a feedback. And that has many things to do with what you sell, how much, what package size, and so forth. But on the other side also, you must have been hearing this a lot, that we are talking about digital twins of your supply chain. In essentially what it means is if you have a demand-driven supply chain. So I say I'm going to sell this much of this product. And so we manufacture to that product. What is the variability around that? And how can I build an intelligent supply chain that has the risk and resilience built into it, right? What are redundancies that I should be building in? But doing all of that virtually, programmatically, so that the supply chain itself becomes more resilient. These are the two areas where we are rapidly going from experimentation to scale today, in addition to the 4 areas I mentioned before.
All right, we're going to dive into Peter's favorite topic, which is, other than data and analytics, which is connecting all of that into digital selling, aka e-commerce. Of course, after COVID, the word e-commerce has kind of, for lack of a better word, exploded in the industry, right? There's a lot of noise and attention around the digital way of selling, both in the manufacturer brand world as well as in the retail side of this fence. How do you think this positions with the traditional way of revenue management across CPG manufacturers? Because fulfillment is an art, but it's a science of balance as well. What are your thoughts around the space, and what has Fractal done in this space in terms of any looking at, what it does, impact to a P&L, things of that nature? What do you offer, Prateek, in this space?
Sure. I think, Sri, great question. And that's one of the questions, quite frankly, we have been discussing a lot and mulling things over a lot over the last 18 months, right? And for us, really, when you think of revenue management and e-commerce and how all of this comes together, it's about enabling our clients to take better decisions and faster decisions, right from consumer to commerce. And that's the philosophy that we are following. And Sri, Peter, you have talked many a time about what pressure traditional structures are facing and how brand P&Ls, org structures should transform. And we are seeing some of those conversations, right? And discussions, starting to happen at our clients, right? It's a big ship, hence it is slow moving, but it is moving nonetheless. And we are readying ourselves at Fractal to help serve our clients for these problems that they may encounter 2 or 3 years down the line. And in this regard, when we think of RGM or next generation RGM, I should say, is really an offering that is, like I said, connected, continuous, and evolving, that helps brands to engage with shoppers at any point in their decision journey, right? From browsing, to intent when they have defined that need, to interest when they have a category or a product in mind, and right down to conversion. And while we lay this journey out horizontally across different channels, right? B&M, retailers, websites, marketplaces, final mile apps, we then look to assess how we can affect these decisions across 3 vertical dimensions. And those are demand sensing, which is understanding what, where, and who of demand. Second is demand shaping, which is activating execution levers that are driving demand. And third is demand fulfillment, like you said, Sri, right? How can we monitor listings, right? And can have a capability to real-time track out of stock and optimize fulfillment by really marrying that with our internal supply chain and financial data, right? And that really helps us to frame and purpose build our AI and analytics offering via products and platforms in a very modular way to service any of the 3 engagement models that I stated earlier. So, for example, demand sensing, we look at solutions such as consumer and brand engagement, which includes AI-powered voice of consumer, mining demand signals, understanding demand space from all the signals data that you can traditionally think of across marketplaces, social signals, news feeds, news blogs, etc. And next best action and personalization, right? Or demand shaping, right? Which looks at, like you said, digital shelf and search, on platform media. Dipita talked about how understanding the ROIs of all the investments that we are making, not only off platform, but on platform as well, comes together to drive page views and conversions. And also solutions around intelligent pricing and price pack architecture, trade promo investments and optimizations, and so on and so forth. So we are really envisioning the future in service of the framework that is browse, intent, interest, and conversion, and layout over sensing, shaping, and fulfillment.
Right. And to add to that, if I may, as I think about revenue growth management, that's one of the terms we use, which is essentially how does a company make money? And how do we manage and control how a company makes money? I think about that as today in terms of just what we are selling in brick and mortar stores, like a Walmart store. So to extend that concept of what we are also selling maybe at walmart.com, to be able to look side by side. So visibility is the first step. We have gone a lot, quite far in looking at things side by side. We have even gone as far as to say, where is that Walmart.com demand coming from? With zip code, does that match up with what they have in the store if you're fulfilling it from the store, or in the DC if you're fulfilling it from the DC? And so is there a signal that needs to be sent in terms of warning, right? So that's the first thing, that what has changed, and therefore how do we need to look at our world of how our business makes money? Then the second step is, do we need to relook at our packaging? For example, every package that we sell in a brick and mortar store, does that sell online, or is there a propensity to buy larger packages, for example, versus balancing consumers also needing in smaller formats, smaller packages? So how do you manage that? So all of those things, I think we're developing a lot based on experimentation. We have an established RGM platform, but we continue to add to that based on this and all the other aspects that Prateek talked about.
All right, Dipita, I get the pleasure of asking the last question today. And I think I want to focus it around the future. You know, you've got, clearly with you and Prateek, you've got some really great skill sets. I'm going to assume that your management team in general is really focused on that. So can you leave our audience with really a high level, the real impact message of where are you all looking to take Fractal in the future? Where do you want to go, and how do you plan to make that happen?
Fantastic. I also get to answer the last question. First of all, when I started out in this industry and people used to say, what do you do? And I said, I do analytics. Usually people would say, what is that? Right? And they no longer say that. They say, oh, that's cool. So it's a great time to be in this industry for sure, to be consultants, and I think to be the observers and participants in history, right? As we reinvent businesses on the basis of AI, for lack of a more comprehensive word, right? And where do I want to take my practice? Essentially, first, we want to be at the forefront of innovation. So we want to continuously solve new problems that come up with experimentation. We want to continue to focus on adoption. I think we have cracked the code in terms of adoption in some places, but to be able to be deliberate and get our user-centric approach everywhere. And for me, not to talk about change management, but to anticipate change and design for change. That's my second ambition. And really, to match the speed at which decisions need to be made in this increasingly, digital world, if you will, right? So to be a lot more prescriptive in decision making as I think about the DNA of organizations, how can we enable that? Because that's where I see the future. And in CPG specific, I've been giving this a bit of thought because I was talking to one of our clients yesterday and he asked me, so I'm going to repeat what I told him. I said, look, if we are looking at CPG companies tomorrow, what is going to differentiate the winners, right? The winners are going to be the ones who can operate at speed of digital commerce for every commerce. Because I think more and more there will be no more differentiation, right? We just have to get really good at taking decisions and good decisions fast, right? To be able to run fast. Second is to be able to be relentless in following and leading consumers. So be connected. For a long time, we had a third party in between, the shopper, the consumer, and the manufacturer, if you will. But here is a great unprecedented opportunity where our consumers are digitally engaged. So let's create value for them and co-innovate with them. Third is to be ruthlessly value-centric, because everything that is new is not always worth doing. I talked about whether you go all the way to digital commerce or do you stop at experience. We call it to DTC or not to DTC sometimes, and that's a great conversation always. And also to be able to build a digital organization that is not just equipping your workforce to be digital, but to equip your decision spine of the organization, the way you make decisions to be connected and digital, right? If we can accomplish those four things with our clients, and our workforce and our capabilities enable us to partner with our clients on that, to be able to separate substance from clutter based on value, then we can ultimately lead change in the industry. And 5 years from now, we would say, yes, the CPG industry changed, and at the forefront of that change was Fractal. That would be my dream.
Thank you so much. And for all our audience, just a reminder, you can find all our content at cpgguys.com. Best way to become part of this growing family that's adding listeners and the network every single day. Go to linkedin.com. In the search bar, type CPG Guys and hit the blue plus button. You shape the outcomes of this podcast, who gets to come on the show, the topics we discuss. One such topic that you wrote to us about was the use of analytics. And here we are having this conversation with Fractal. But we also appreciate your ratings and tell us about, there are other ways you can tell us about this podcast. And that is you can go to ratethispodcast.com/CPG Guys, leave us a rating, as well as tell us what you think about the show and what you'd like to see. Dipita and Prateek, thank you so much for appearing on this episode of the podcast. I look forward to the next one with you folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To my good friend and co-host, Mr. Bond, the man with the golden voice, thank you.
Shri, I was taking copious notes. Can't wait for episode 2 of this series.
We have a lot to decompose, Peter. I want to go back to I want to go back to MLL. That's my favorite topic. And that's guys. See you on the next episode of the CPG Guys.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.